59. And this was not heard in subcommittee.
No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. House Bill 159 updates the section on family life education. This bill requires that each local school board implement a comprehensive and sequential family life education curriculum in grades kindergarten through 12. It requires that it be medically accurate and age appropriate, and it also requires that every school district does so. I have listened to a variety of sides on this, and I wanted to point out that I firmly believe that when we're talking about a comprehensive curriculum, that abstinence education and the value of family relationships is certainly a part of any curriculum and clearly needs to be incorporated in any kind of comprehensive approach to it. If we take a step back and think of the interests as opposed to our kind of traditional positions on this issue, the interests at hand are that we all want to see a decrease in unwanted teenage pregnancy. We all want to see a decrease in abortions, and clearly that this type of education curriculum does so. We also all want to see a reduction in sexually transmitted diseases, and what we found is that in the Commonwealth of Virginia, half of the sexually transmitted diseases occurred in the age group of 15 to 24, so it's clear that we need to be doing more to mitigate those issues. I'm pleased to be working with Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the Young Democrats of Virginia in trying to improve this legislation, and I know a number of them are here to also speak on behalf of HB 159.
All right. Anybody wish to speak in favor of the legislation?
Good morning. My name is Shank. I'm the secretary of the Virginia Young Democrats and a freshman at the College of William Mary. This is an issue that I've been passionate about and have worked on for at least 3 years now, having attended public school in Arlington, Virginia. And personally, it doesn't really make sense to me why my friend who lives in Wise County should have less access to potentially life-saving information than I did in Arlington. There are numerous studies that prove that having access to this information prevents STDs, prevents HIV, prevents unwanted pregnancies. This is, I think, a common sense bill that will provide Virginia students with information that will protect them. And that's what this really comes down to, in my opinion.
Young man, do you realize what the bill actually does?
Yes.
Okay, so it takes out, if you look on line 22, the benefits, challenges, responsibilities, and the value of marriage for men, women, children, and communities. And then it talks about the value of family relationships, which is kept in. It talks about dealing with taking out abstinence education, the value of postponing sexual activity, and the benefits of adoption. You agree with all that?
So, Mr. Chairman, as surprising as it might sound, and it was incredibly surprising to myself as well when I read the research, but the research does show that abstinence is not an effective way to protect students from, or to prevent students from having sexual intercourse. The research
Young man,
shows,
if someone abstains from sexual activity, are you saying that doesn't prevent pregnancy?
No, Mr. Chairman, and if you want to step in, yeah.
Delegate Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe what you're saying is the research does not support abstinence education and actually showing that reduction. And clearly, I certainly follow your line of questioning, Mr. Chairman. I believe that any, in the kind of rewording here, that any comprehensive and medically accurate and age-appropriate curriculum would absolutely have information with regards to abstinence education.
But Delegate Russell, when you take that language out, which has been a combination of activity of this committee over the last 10 years, you're not assuring that that information would be provided to young people in our schools. Isn't that correct?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, with regards to the stricken language in A, I personally would not be opposed to unstriking that language if it would reassure members of this committee that, in fact, that would continue to be part of the curriculum, because I do believe, as you do, that abstinence education should be part of a comprehensive
But Delegate Russell, let me ask you one other question. The young man behind you and the other folks that are lined up apparently do not support what's actually in the state statute. So there seems to be a conflict between what you proposed, what they prefer, and what's actually in the law. So I'm just trying to understand why we would have a bill before us that strikes that language after it's been worked on for the last 10 years, and you seem to assume that it's going to be included in our educational program if it's not in there, in the state statute. So I'm just trying to understand how that would be the case.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I believe that there's some subjective nature, and I clearly, and I think many of the people behind me clearly believe that abstinence education and the value of family relationships is included and should be part of a medically accurate and comprehensive sex ed curriculum. If it makes members of this committee uneasy that that section is stricken, then for me, I have no problem in keeping that section in.
Okay, let's let the other proponents of the bill come forward. Yes, ma'am. Please identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Tara Gibson. I am here to share testimony from Melissa Meadows. She is the education director here in Richmond for the Virginia League for Planned Parenthood. She says that young people in Virginia are disproportionately affected by high rates of sexually transmitted infections, and they experience higher rates of unplanned pregnancy than adults. High-quality, comprehensive, medically accurate sexual health education has been shown by research for decades to give youth the knowledge and skills to protect their sexual health. The abstinence-only until marriage curricula implemented by some schools, public schools in Virginia, is not just antiquated, it is harmful. Research indicates that those programs can actually increase a young person's risk of experiencing an unplanned pregnancy. We need to invest our time and money in health education programs that have been proven through research to be effective. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, good morning. LaTanya Joanna Gregory, representing Planned Parenthood Advocates of Virginia, and we do indeed support this bill. I'd just like to note that comprehensive sex education does indeed include instruction on abstinence. And with respect to the additional language that you're proposing to be reinserted into the bill, it is our position that the values that are reflected in that language are best taught to young people by their families. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Flores Shannon, and I'm representing the Virginia Latina Advocacy Network. Today I'm going to be reading a fellow activist testimony. Hello, my name is Paola Henriquez, and I am a student at Chantilly High School, and I write to support HB 159. I'm also an activist with the Virginia Latina Advocacy Network. I'm a student representative for the Family Life Education Curriculum Advisory Committee in Fairfax County Public Schools, where we work to update the FLE curriculum that is taught across the county. This bill will be a beneficial addition to the curriculum of health and FLE classes because it will educate students about the available options to keep themselves healthy and safe and to respect their bodily autonomy. Health and FLE classes currently lack a comprehensive perspective, which leaves students unprepared and uninformed when it comes to their sexual health and healthy relationships. However, this bill will ensure that Virginia youth have access to medically accurate, comprehensive, and age-appropriate information. We know that Virginia parents are in favor of comprehensive FLE. It is harmful to think that all parents are able to provide their children with a respectful and medically accurate understanding of family life education. Research shows that well-designed and well-implemented family life education programs can decrease sexual risk behaviors among teens and lead to healthier Virginia youth. Thank you on behalf of students everywhere. We urge you to support comprehensive family life education across the Commonwealth.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Tanisha White with NARAL Patriots Virginia, and we support this bill. Hello, my name is Pablo Malden. May I please ask the chair if I may say my testimony in full so that I may answer your questions better, your questions that are very important for this committee to understand why this bill needs to be passed.
Is your testimony, is it written or?
Yeah, I just want to be able to say my testimony in full so that I can answer your questions if you have any.
Sure.
Thank you so much. As I said, my name is Pablo Malden, and when I was 15 years old, I was attending Fairfax County Public Schools. In James Madison High School, they showed us a video in which they compared people who have multiple partners to a piece of chewed gum. And then 2 years later, I was diagnosed with HIV at the age of 17. Now, this video was state-sponsored, tax-funded slut-shaming. Instead of educating students on how to make better decisions for their sexual health, I'm so sorry. What is your question?
Young man, just don't use language that would be not within the decorum of the committee.
I'm sorry, this is language that people have called me because of my HIV diagnosis, and so I want to illustrate to this subcommittee, to this committee, the reality of our problem and the fear and the shame that surrounds sex that leads kids to having unwanted pregnancies or STD infections. But I do apologize. I will refrain.
Yes, thank you.
So this promiscuity shaming around creates fear rather than educating kids. Because you see, sex ed is not just about disseminating information. It's not about just giving them information. It's about making kids comfortable talking about sex. And you will not talk about sex if you are afraid for being persecuted by your peers as being promiscuous. That does not promote the conversation. And then when you don't talk about sex, all of the education you receive is null and void because it is not implemented in your personal life. Now, I have been speaking as an HIV-positive speaker with the Northern Virginia AIDS Ministry in Nova Salud for the past 5 years. I've reached 1,500 students and faculty in Northern Virginia, and I know for a fact that the teachers and the students are not the problem. The teachers want comprehensive sex ed. Yes, they have biases, they have zero training, and they have zero education on sex ed, but they want our kids to have comprehensive sex ed. And the kids are listening. They engage. They ask me questions. They care about their sexual health. The problem is they do not have the laws that require the sex ed to be medically accurate so that they can make decisions on sex if they ever choose to have it. And if they choose not to have it, that's great because that's the only 100% way to prevent HIV, to prevent unwanted pregnancies, and also not sharing needles, of course. But also, if you are ready to have sex, then here are the best ways to have it. So I promise you, if you deliver this bill across Virginia, the creed that my fellow HIV-positive speaker came up with, you got to protect yourself, respect yourself, and love yourself, will ring from the mouths of every single teacher. From in all parts of Virginia, kids, this, I will love myself, I will protect myself, and I will respect myself, will echo through all of their minds, and unwanted pregnancies and teen pregnancies will go down. So please, please pass this legislation and deliver a Virginia where all pregnancies are wanted, where all childbirths are safe, all HIV infections are prevented, and a Virginia that is not just for lovers, but a Virginia that is for educated lovers who know how to love safely. Please vote for the future of our children's education, for their well-being, for their protection, for their respect and their love.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wish to speak in favor of the legislation? Anybody that wishes to speak in opposition to the legislation?